Coffee is for leaders.
My aggregate posts a month get a couple of million views, and all this while Google started indexing Reddit as well. So if you're actually going and looking for best this plan or best that plan, our results are going to show up on Google. And turns out social proofing is just one of the most effective ways of marketing your product at this point.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on the show. You are the founder and CEO of U.S. Mobile. Let's start there. How did you come to be the founder and CEO of U.S. Mobile?
So I grew up in Pakistan. I moved here for my undergrad. And as soon as I landed, got into all kinds of connectivity issues, couldn't go and activate my line. Parents were waiting for me to give them a call back. This is after 9/11, so a lot of stigma. And kind of like growing up, just playing so many of these simulation like games, everything from Zeus to Transport Tycoon to Sims, watching Star Trek where like you could just teleport from one place to another place. I feel like I saw the world as a system of like microservices, modular, reconfigurable, programmable. And so like when I was graduating, I felt like I could re-architect the wireless for the telco side of it because it was so bloated. Think about it as building a programmable, intelligent layer for global access and really, fixing wireless connectivity was not going to be just launching another wireless network. It was more, how do you create something, like I said, which is programmable and configurable for all kinds of use cases. So I really thought the industry needed not another prepaid wireless carrier, but an intelligent layer on top of these existing networks. And so this obsession with like technology is like really what made me start US Mobile.
Was part of the reason why it was difficult to get a cell phone is like immigration, social security numbers, like all that stuff plays into if you're an American citizen, it's easier. Is that right?
Part of it is, well, we can very proudly say that used to be the issue before US Mobile came in. But yes,
that's what you saw. That's exactly what you saw.
Yes, but it was all the above. Like you try to go get a cell phone. They want you to have a social security number. But hey, guess what? You move to this country and it takes weeks to get a social security number. Like my in-laws just recently moved and it took them like 8 weeks to get it. So it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation. It's like, okay, I need this, but for you need that, but for that you need this. And so all kinds of issues. So really the only way to have done it would have been to actually go up to Clint and be like, hey, I know you've been around for a very long time in this country. You really barely know me, but I kind of need a cell phone. So would you be willing to co-sign for me? And imagine how those conversations would go with like 9 or 10 people.
Weird. Yeah, that's no fun. That makes no sense too. Why it would be tied to that, anyways.
It was, for a country that's like where like immigrants have had such a huge like role to play. The wireless connectivity space just did not take that into consideration at all. And like now, and the more I think about it, I think my personal opinion is that I think a lot of stuff, like Americans looked at a lot of like immigration from a perspective of like kind of chain migration. So like, okay, I'm here and I'm going to like sponsor my family to come in. So like, guess what? You already have these things taken care of, right? Like I'll co-sign for you because you're my family. I'll go help you. I don't think it was made for like people like me who just literally had no one in this country whatsoever, right? I mean, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make sense even outside of that use case, but you've solved that. So tell us how you did that and how you've built this. And I mean, you give your users access to like the top 3 networks, right? Like Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, all kind of can work inside of US Mobile. Is that right?
It is. So basically what US Mobile is, it's like the world's like most intelligent like connectivity platform. We operate on all 3 networks in the US and now over 200 carriers globally, all abstracted into that one single defined software layer. And so like think about it in some ways as like a programmable routing for like mobile data, but like with like, kind of AI driven quality of service baked in. How did we do it? First, the complexity of this whole situation, right? So one of the things that we do is, since we're on top of all three networks, you could basically buy a plan from US Mobile, like a shared data plan or unlimited plan, and you can kind of go into that plan and say, hey, I want you to extend this plan to all networks in the US. So whether that's on the same device where your device makes a decision between what networks to go on, or you deciding, hey, here are the 5 lines I've activated on my plan. 2 of them is going to be on Darkstar, one of them is going to be in Warp, and one of them is going to be on or 2 of them are going to be on Lightspeed, which are the 3 different networks that we have. And so I will use Darkstar because wherever I am, AT&T works really great, but my wife or my kids or my other family members are in cities where Warp is better, and so they will use that. And these networks don't talk to each other. And even like when you like go a mile in any city, you will probably be jumping between different kinds of frequencies. Like when you look at your phone and it's like going from 4G to LTE to 5G ultra wideband, it's that in itself, like every time you do that, you're like kind of creating new records, and on just one network. Imagine if you're doing that on every other network, somehow creating that layer of abstraction on top of these networks so you can share that is really what US Mobile is. And I would say it probably took us, close to like 8 years to like build this tech and refined it. And because just a lot of people just didn't think it was possible.
Did you raise money, or how did you fund the business?
We originally raised $4 million in seed funding, or like Series A, from like one of the biggest family offices in the US. And in 2021, we bought the family office out and brought in Volition Capital. To invest in aggregate $30 million across our Series A. Part of it was to buy our original investors out, but that's all that we have ever raised. We, when Volition came in, we were closing in on 20 million in revenue. Actually, at that time, the company was growing so fast that we went pretty fast, between 15 to 20 million in revenue. And so we raised around $30 million. We are closing in within 4 years of that investment, we are closing in on 150 million in revenue. And that's all the money that we've ever had to raise. We are cash flow positive, generating significant amount of cash at this point, while having grown, to an extent virally. And so that's all the money that we've ever raised.
You know how remarkable that is? That is so cool. Wow. Congratulations. Well done.
It took quite a bit. I would say like the general disposition of an entrepreneur or companies that are growing this as fast as we are, is to go and raise more money, go and get that higher valuation. Every time you're going and raising money at a very high valuation, you basically, whatever that benchmark is, like whatever valuation that you raise the money at, is the number that you can sell the company at or exit the company at. Now, I'm not saying that that's what the motivation of every entrepreneur is. Actually, I rightly so, a lot of entrepreneurs think their companies can be the next Microsoft or Google or Facebook or Tesla. But like, let's be honest, like there aren't many of them out there. And so it sounds really cool that you raise money from these big investors, but it also takes so much of your business's optionality away. And by the way, it's an extra layer of abstraction, right? Even on your cap table, now you have another system that you're reporting to.
Now you have a boss, and you have a benchmark that you have to hit at the very least, if not jump over, right? Like the fact that you haven't and you understand that is so awesome. It gives you so much flexibility. You're already profitable. I mean, 150 million in revenue is remarkable. by the way. Like, what are we talking? Like, you don't need to ever raise again if you don't want to, right? Like that's pretty incredible.
We don't, and we hope we never have to. I would say like what's going to happen is there's going to be, a bunch of people have been in the company for a very long time, and what we've been doing is we've been finding them smaller exits just so that they're ready to go and move, do another. Like we're doing these smaller secondary transactions where like a bunch of early employees have been, we're helping them try to sell their shares, and part of it is so that they can go and it's kind of a okay. Like now I can go and put a down payment to my house, or like I'm ready for the next 10 years. So I say a bunch of that's just going to happen till we, till we get to a point where we're maybe public. But I would say and it's also gives folks that kind of missed out on US Mobile originally to kind of get back or get on our cap table.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so tell me about your customer base. Is it mostly US? You mentioned like you have a lot like outside the United States as well. Like, where's your growth coming from?
So US Mobile, like as the name states, is just primarily like an American like connectivity provider. Having said that, the reason that we are getting more and more customers outside the US is because the platform was so modular and so extensible that at the end of the day, we ended up extending our platform to like connect into like hundreds of different wireless network operators around the world. But really that part of the business has been primarily so that if Clint is a US Mobile customer and he is traveling to Spain or to Argentina, we just want to make sure that we give you just ubiquitous, like fast connectivity. But other than that, US Mobile is primarily in the US. We have customers in every single state in the US. It's a modular platform. So if you want to buy, just a couple of 100 megabytes of data to track your pet, you can use US Mobile. You want to put the connectivity into your car, you can use US Mobile. Or on the other side of the spectrum, you can buy our unlimited end game plan that basically is an unlimited plan that has no limits whatsoever, doesn't slow down in crowded areas. And by that what I mean is you have higher priority data. Any network can slow down if it's like really busy, right? Gives you access to connectivity in 100 different countries around the world. So like basically like running the whole gamut and basically in that spectrum of like modular connectivity, you can, wherever you fit in is, like that's like really US Mobile's business model, as opposed to being like a senior play or a ethnic play so it's mostly the US. How are we acquiring them? I would say like more than half of the customers today come through word of mouth. It's just like once you kind of try US Mobile out with like our multi-network connectivity and all of that stuff, there's places where like coverage is changing from block to block, right? And we give you the ability to jump between these networks even as you're going through these blocks. And then there's just the simple user experience that we have, the connectivity, the transparency. Like once you actually become a US Mobile customer, as I say, we kind of start living rent free in your mind, and we don't really see connectivity as a zero sum game. There's not going to be one big winner. The market is like the TAM is like close to $400 billion a year, and I would say more than half the customers are coming through word of mouth, and the rest of it is through search. We're probably the biggest carrier on Reddit, which is just like super interesting. But what happened? So what happened was that US Mobile obviously is it's a tech play. Like our product is like intelligence that's like wrapped in a carrier, right? Anything from like a multi-network access to zero trust security, and then really what we started doing was like starting to like we started to like build this connectivity brain, and so it was, I would say it was very attractive to like geeks. And so what we started happening was like pre-COVID, we started there was this community of like US Mobile geeks that was forming on Reddit, which is like kind of become that de facto search engine from products today, right? and so I'd always be telling my customer service team, hey, say this to that person, say this to that person. And then I was like, well, screw it, I'm going to go and start responding to these customers myself. So I started responding to them. And then what happened was post COVID, Reddit became huge in COVID. Like people were just like on Reddit and TikTok, right? Two of the biggest platforms to come out of COVID. There's other social media platforms out there, Instagram and Snapchat, but these were the two ones that just became huge. And so what happened was, I think a lot of like the male population in the US ended up going to Reddit to take like product advice. And lo and behold, there is this one company on the telco side where they're like, wait, what is this? What is US Mobile? Why is everyone talking about it? Well, everyone's talking about it because it's a great product, but the CEO or the founder responds directly. And my Reddit relationship has been, I would say, push and pull. It's not like a typical corporate relationship where it's going to be, if a customer says something, I'll respond, sometimes kindly, sometimes not so like, I mean, like kind of getting on their level, right? And I and that created virality. Reddit is a place where people go to like crap on their companies that they use, and all of a sudden they have a company where they can crap on it, and the CEO is there. Or if they don't, like, and we were also sourcing a lot of our next gen product ideas from Reddit as well, and that created virality to the point where this year we're going to cross 25 million views on our subreddit. Every other post of mine, like my aggregate posts a month, get a couple of million views, and all this while Google started indexing Reddit as well. So if you're actually going and looking for best this plan or best that plan, like, our results are going to show up on Google. And turns out social proofing is just one of the most effective ways of marketing your product at this point.
Yeah, that's incredible, actually. How are you thinking about AI, and how are you integrating it into the product?
I would say that for us, AI, like the way we look at US Mobile from an AI perspective, is more on how does AI help you either get served better at US Mobile, make better decisions around your plans, or give you more transparency on really what's going on. So with US Mobile, we have something called the global search bar, which is a search bar at US Mobile where you can actually give it like commands. I want to port my phone number out, and it'll basically get you to your port out information. But the whole point over there was created where you can actually have these like natural conversations with our system. And so our approach on AI is that it's there if you want to use it, and you'll be able to do like really ridiculous stuff like, hey, my friend, my friend Clint, I've known him for a while. Hey, this is what his phone number is. I have his permission. Can you please try convincing Clint to come over to US Mobile? And our AI is going to get in touch with you either through emails or text messaging and have that conversation with you. Or you could say, am I using too much data, too less data? Should I go up or down? Or just having device telematics, right? Coming in and be like, hey, like I live in Michigan, like, Dearborn, Michigan, and I've, and my service has been very choppy for the last week or so, using like, small language models and large language models to figure out really what's going on with all of our customers in that area for the last month and a half or so. Is there more latency, less latency? Do we have network notifications that come into a data lake, and basically parsing that and saying, okay, would that impact us? We look at what your phone is and like kind of benchmarking it against other phones. And so we really look at AI from the perspective of how do we create these experiences for you, better experience. And at the end of the day, it really is made to facilitate our users. So if at the end of the day, we are training our models to actually say, maybe US Mobile is not the right carrier for you. That conversation is kind of becoming pretty moot at this point because we have all three networks. So like, okay, really, you're going to leave us and like go to who? But I really look at AI as a huge like force multiplier.
What does a typical day look like for you?
it's actually really funny. I was having this conversation with one of my colleagues today, but a day, I'll usually like wake up, between like 6:30 to 7 in the morning. That's when, so I have three kids. Kids are getting ready to go to school. Wife actually teaches at a preschool, so like she's getting ready. So just kind of like, get up, make my coffee, get ready. I usually am on a train from Connecticut to New York. So that takes me an hour, get in at 9 o'clock. And the first 2 hours are usually dedicated to me talking to my co-founder and a colleague like Michael and Omer, who's my CFO and our, and kind of like thinking about some top of mind stuff. And then usually it'll be a mix of meetings and then and time for myself. I would say I'm obsessive about having a lot of time for myself in the day, just because, my general posture is, what are the 2 or 3 or 4 things I can do every quarter that's going to move the needle for the company? So these tend to be like a mix of like short term and like long term goals, and I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I've been recently telling a lot of my colleagues and my friends that the best work that you ever do is like when you're not working. So I really try to create that. So, and then I'll usually be like on the train back home between 5:30 to 6 o'clock. Takes me an hour to get home, so I'm home between 6:30 to 7:15 or 7:30. I will work out for like 45 minutes to an hour, and spend some time with the kids and the wife, and then back at it again.
That is incredible. So what's it been like to build in the United States and in New York, and what is that overall, ever since you got here, what has that experience been like?
Listen, it's been great. I'm very patriotic about the country for like what it's been able to do for me and what I've been able to do for it. And honestly, it's just been a really great journey. As I'm for me, America is pretty homogenous when it comes to where you build companies. The reason we built it in New York was because like I went to school in Connecticut. We had lots of friends here. And so having that support group around you when you're building companies is just so underrated, but so important. And so like de facto, like New York kind of became the place where all the talent comes in. It's an absolutely incredible place to like kind of hire talent, and obviously America is just one of the greatest countries in the world to like build companies. There's more risk capital in the U.S. than anywhere else out there, so people are ready to take a bet on you. This system is built to, I would say, like help you accelerate when you need to. And so I would say from that perspective, and obviously everything has its own challenges. Like on the downside of it, there's lots of monopolies here, which makes it much harder for you to like hit escape velocity. That's why so many businesses, like 1 in every 167 businesses, especially on the recurring revenue side, ever make it beyond $10 million in revenue. But that's why we do it, right? That's for the that's the fun in there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's incredible, man. Like, what do you read, and what reading recommendations would you have for us?
I actually read a lot of just like stories. Like I read a lot of biographies. I absolutely, I love reading them. Part of it was that one of my majors and in my college was history, which probably has helped me more in my life and in my startups and my engineering major, which is a lot more technical. And part of it is that like history really makes you realize a couple of things. Like philosophically, it makes you realize that like if you like zoom out on a cosmic level, you're not a very big deal at all. So like, really kind of keeps you grounded. It makes you realize that for any given moment, for whatever you're going through, there was someone a couple of thousand years before you who was trying to peddle the same thing to customers. So like, I don't know, and so like there was an Elon 1,000, 2,000 years back as well, who was like, absolutely like innovating around like for example, like in the 9th to the 10th century and the 11th century, like one of the biggest things that happened, like one of the biggest advancements in military hardware was like these wheels that had axles, so they could move faster and they could go over mountains much more easily. And like, can you imagine that guy must have been like, hey, I made this and everyone is using it. So it's an acute realization that there's always someone out there who's been through you. So I really enjoy reading like a lot of like biographical kind of stories. I do read news a lot. I probably spend 2 to 2.5 hours every day reading articles and news. If I find an obscure topic that I really like, I'll just kind of get into it. Outside that, I would say I'm really into sci-fi. So if I can find time somewhere, I'll put an episode of Star Wars on. It's even my 4-year-old daughter doesn't watch like Disney Junior, but I watched it because there was a specific Star Wars show that was only on Disney Junior. So and that's a big kind of way for me to like kind of decompress and kind of forget about what's going on around me.
What have you learned about leadership as a CEO?
It's like it might seem like a really easy question, but I would say it's a pretty, I would say, like loaded question, which is for me, leadership is like kind of enabling people to do their best work. For me, leadership is that you. And I think a lot of people will kind of disagree with this, but leadership is all about being like really magnanimous as well. Good leadership is not taking all the credit and really enabling. Like I would say, the best leader in the world is one who is the greatest force multiplier, right? You really have to go in and look at people around you, and you're like, okay, how do I take this person, and how do I make sure that this person actually goes and like hits their potential. And I'm not saying that I am a really great leader, but I'm just saying like also, in my world, also a great leader would be someone that just is like really good at like someone who's very defensive at the same time, right? Like knowing when to attack and knowing when to defend. And I would say, leaders are either extremely defensive or extremely offensive, as opposed to like having that posture in the middle. Like, when are you taking a lot of, punches on your chin, and when are you attacking yourself? Early on, we got into this like really big litigation, and my last investors told me something that I'll never forget. I was getting really upset, right? Like litigation isn't fun. Like people will say stuff about you that's, might be true, might not be true. But the whole point is that you throw all bunch of stuff at someone and hope that something sticks, right? And so it was really upsetting me. And my investor said, hey, listen, Ahmed, you're making a technical defense over here. The person, like whatever you're involved in, they don't have any claim against the business or whatever. And when we're doing a great job making a technical defense, the downside of it is that you can't throw punches, because as soon as you start throwing punches, right, that's when you're in the ring, and then that's when we're going to have an issue. So for me, it really taught me a lot about like leadership from the perspective of, when do you go and like stand back and kind of like let things go around you, and then also like using the right opportunity to then like kind of move forward in an aggressive posture as well.
Right. Oh, that's super interesting. Finally, we end every interview with the same question, and that is at CEO.com. We believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
Man, everyone, from the person who gave us the first T-Mobile deal to my first, literally my account manager at FedEx, who I actually don't know where's, her name was Amy. This is like 15 years back. Our early folks who helped us open our bank account. For me, listen, honestly, my whole life is about paying it forward, because I have lost count of just how many people have helped me get here. And and it's very grounding, and it's a lot. Like, there's just so many people. You don't get to where US Mobile today is if people haven't given you chances. Everything from your friends to your families to your colleagues. It's it probably could be another 45 minutes of like me talking, but and it's not lost on me as a founder, and that like paying it forward is really becomes like a very important aspect of your life. So can't pinpoint like one person, and I would say there's just been dozens of people, and they and it continues. I mean, even at scale, even at 100 million in revenue last year, we added a third network, AT&T, and there were just a certain people over there that took a chance on us because we weren't making it easy on them, and we were going and asking for all kinds of stuff, and because we already had these partners. And really it's those couple of people who were sitting there and were like, oh, maybe Ahmed is a cool guy, or maybe the company is like, might get somewhere. So it hasn't even stopped. People are still taking chances on us, and they're still doing us favors, and we're just grabbing them with kind of like both our hands, and yeah.
That's incredible. Ahmed, thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations on everything you built. Seriously, it's remarkable what you've built. You should be very proud of that. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Clint. I really appreciate you having us.